we're still here and we're still trying to point out flaws in people's epistemology.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We appreciate you.
hang tough and keep on keeping on. Bye-bye.
Keep on
Bye-bye.
keeping on.
I think that was a good
Like
call.
that phrase.
Yeah, good one
Did
to start
you-
off on.
Do we want to go to the scientific evidence? Let's go to...
Okay, just pause for a second. If you're joining me now, the idea is that we watch the Atheist Experience. We're a little bit behind the program at the moment, but not much, about 5 minutes or so. And when it involves science, I'll pause the program, jump in and explain anything that I think I can explain to try and open up the discussion that they're having and make sure that people appreciate the point of view from the science perspective.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Okay, so Zeno in North Carolina says, I want to prove God with scientific evidence. I love it.
Ooh.
I love it. You are on with Jenna and Jim. Zeno, am I saying your name correctly?
Okay, I can predict this might not go great, since I don't really see how it's possible to do that, to prove the existence of God from the scientific perspective.
Yes, that is right. You know, I called about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I had the same discussion with Matt Delonte. But Jenna, it looked like you were understanding what I was saying a little bit more than Matt. So I'm really glad that I can speak with you on this. Again,
Okay,
as we're here.
you might have to refresh my memory.
Yeah, so I came from empiricism. I said to Matt, empiricism. That was basically my epistemology. And he said, well, I don't give a fuck about your epistemology. But see, that epistemology is what you have to explain first.
So hold on. Before
epistemology.
Can we try to not bring Matt into this? Because Matt's not here. He can't. I don't remember what he said, and he can't say anything. Let's just try to take the concept.
So I was giving.
No, I'm sorry. I was just trying to get a refresher of the concept that we were talking about and try to look at it, examine it again from a different way.
Yeah. Okay. So empiricism is basically my epistemological view of the world, and that is a branch of epistemology. And
what is empiricism?
So empiricism, the theory of knowledge, that asserts that knowledge arises from evidence gathered via sense experience. So empiricism
Okay, right. I'm going to stop there for a second, so I can briefly discuss this. Empirical knowledge is knowledge based on observation, data. This does not mean from your senses. One of the problems that science has is the fact that if you rely on a human being's senses, we are fully aware of the fact that it's not reliable. It's not repeatable. It is difficult to form a judgment of the level of confidence that you have in any data that's taken. In the science field, that would be termed, it's difficult to put an uncertainty on your values for the observational data. This is why we use instruments. We have meters. If we want to measure current and voltage, we have an ammeter and a voltmeter, etc., etc. So we use instruments because it extracts the kind of human aspect of it. Not that that's not important, but again, what we're trying to do is take data that is unbiased and as reliable as we can make it, and empirical data is a reference to that. So empiricism, I guess, is the argument that I am basing my judgments on data about the universe, about the world around us, that kind of thing. It does not just mean senses. If I just go back a second.
Evidence gathered via sense experience.
That's not
so
true.
empiricism emphasizes
that is bound to lead you down the wrong line.
Role of experience and evidence, especially sensory perception in the formation of ideas over the notion of innate ideas.
It sounds like you're saying that
an innate idea. Okay, let's not get into that. It sounds like he's going to be using terms that would have to be like, stop, okay, define what you mean by that. What do you mean by an innate idea?
Senses cannot be fooled. Right, it sounds like you're saying that our senses cannot be fooled.
Dictionary.
Okay, so
I'm not
how are
saying
you
this at all. I'm
relying?
saying what they're saying.
Right. But
Well,
it sounds like empiricism is saying that your senses are infallible.
What I'm wondering is it your senses
I'm not
that
making up what
determine?
empiricism is. I'm telling you what it is.
Is
right.
it?
And
Is,
I'm coming back with a question.
Jenna, I'm sorry, Jenna.
It's okay. I was just wondering, is it
Wait,
your
so Jenna
senses
said
that are
something I just wanted to
determining
say.
what is real, or is it your senses that are letting you know, or that are interpreting what is real? I'm trying to understand.
I'm not sure that I follow where
Okay,
that argument
so
is going to go.
I can answer that question. I guess can I ask you guys? Do you know what empiricism is? Can I get an honest
Now it's
answer
going to get
from
boring.
The problem is that so
You
many
know what
people
it
use
is.
terms in different ways, and so
Mhm.
I actually don't, off the top of my head, know. There's so many terms that I've in this
that's
group,
fair.
but
That's fair. So can I
yes.
ask Jim? Does he know what empiricism is?
No, not off the top of my head. But you still haven't answered my question.
Now- Okay, now I understand why the conversation wasn't getting anywhere because you guys don't know exactly what it is. So, not from the top of my head, the definition of empiricism, which is an epistemological view, is the theory of knowledge that asserts that knowledge arises from evidence gathered via sense experience. Empiricism emphasizes the role of experience and evidence, especially.
Okay, a massive issue there. The guy is, in my view, is not really. He's on the edge of not talking sense, or he isn't talking sense. If I just play that last sentence again.
Empiricism is from evidence gathered via sense experience. Empiricism emphasizes the role of experience and evidence, especially
sensory experience as evidence. Okay, well, you have to be really careful, as I said earlier, about the idea that you're using a human being's sensory experience as evidence. Basically, you can't do that. It's just not acceptable in a scientific way. Now, that's going to sound a little bit strange because, of course, I can see things, I can see what's going on, I can make notes in a notebook, and obviously that counts as evidence. However, one of the problems with this, and it's the same problem that we have with things like ESP, extrasensory perception, with people who say that they can talk to the dead, that they have evidence in their own mind with their own senses of the fact that they can experience people that are dead and interpret what is being said or felt, so that they can pass information from the land of the dead to the living. The problem that we have with all of those aspects of suggested experience is that we can't actually trust the fact that they're true. Because there are other aspects of this that come into play, like, for example, making money out of people, scamming people, and we know for a fact that those kind of things happen, then it becomes basically a kind of a track or an area of evidence that is basically dumped. Because unless you can show reproducibly that this is something that is happening, then its ability, its confidence, if you like, in that piece of evidence, its ability to inform the scientific method becomes very, very minor, if not zero.
Hold on, are you reading this?
And I've already answered.
Yes,
I've already asked
this
the
is the
question
actual
based on
definition.
that.
I'm trying to let
But,
you know.
but I don't want to know what the
already
definition is.
And this is not
I've
fruitful.
already asked the
But you
question
have
about
to
this.
understand
Are
that
senses
in order to
infallible?
understand
Hold
how
on.
people arrive to God.
Hold on. Can you please answer Jim's
understand
question,
that?
and then we can get back to
Yeah,
this.
sure. All right.
Are
yeah.
the senses
Can I hear
infallible?
that again?
Are the senses infallible?
Yes. Some.
They
not
are.
in all cases.
Really? Are you sure about that? Do you want to take a moment to think about all the different ways that your senses can be fooled?
No, what I said is that not in all situations. So yes, we could believe that pixies ruled Earth, right? Because you feel that. That doesn't make it correct, right? But there are also things you can feel
No,
that
I'm
are
talking
correct.
about senses, not
You know
feelings.
that?
I'm talking about your senses, because that's what you said, sensory experience.
Yes.
So can your senses
Well,
be
you don't
fooled?
think feelings come from your senses? Is that what you're saying?
That's no. I'm asking, can the senses be fooled? Feelings arise from a wide variety of things.
Yes,
but
we know
can
that
your senses be fooled? Okay, so why is basing anything on your...
Both can't be true? Are you saying both can't be true?
Why are you basing an opinion?
Yeah, I would say that this person is irritatingly argumentative. Instead of trying to dig into the issues here, he keeps responding back. It's almost the issue of, I'm going to answer a question with a question because I don't want to get into it, which ultimately I think weakens any argument that you have.
Epistemology on something that is inherently fallible.
Wait, you didn't answer the question. I said that both can be true. So it is true that your senses can fool you. It could also be true that your senses will lead you to the truth.
Yeah, can be is irrelevant. The fact that something can be does not mean that it will be or that it is.
So why
how
are
is
you...
that possible? How is that possible?
In science, we have basic statements about scientific evidence. And what you'll find is that physicists in particular, which is kind of where I'm coming from, will always be very careful about the phrases that they use because they basically don't want to make a mistake and they don't want to say something that isn't true. Although, as many of my students know, I have a massive issue with the word true or truth in physics, which is not really for this particular show. Well, at the moment it's not. You have to be really careful about what you're trying to suggest is evidence in order to come to some conclusion. And this guy is making it very difficult to get to any kind of crux on his argument.
How are you getting to the truth using a fallible method?
How can something be true and not true?
Simply because I can believe the sky is red when it's really blue, right? So
but that's not true unless it's
senses.
Actually.
Yeah, but you're believing something that isn't true.
One could be false and one could be true. Thank you. You've demonstrated that for me. So what I'm saying
is... No, there's only one truth. The sky is blue. That is the truth.
Right, but we could have senses tell us that it's red. So that answers your question because you can't...
Your senses are fallible, and basing an epistemology on your senses makes no sense because you're basing your epistemology on a fallible system of determining what the truth is.
But you do this all the time.
Yeah, I really I think the program is absolutely amazing, and it is definitely not my view that I should criticize the presenters because I don't want to, because they're really, really good. But I think one of them should lead with this and the other one should stay back a little bit, and at the moment they're both trying to jump in. At the moment I think Jim has got a good line of argument here against Zeno, and Zeno's arguments will crumble under Jim's basic argument of, well, let's just get to the crux of this and let's ask some crucial questions that get to the crux of this. And I think Jenna needs to maybe take a step back just a little here and let him finish rather than jumping in, because Zeno, as I perceive this, is using that constant to and fro to his advantage and just creating a chaotic conversation that isn't going to go anywhere, because this is he's skating on thin ice. This is as weak can be, to be truthful.
Well,
gravity. So you're
Zeno.
Oh, there was gravity there.
So then
your senses are fallible, and basing an epistemology on your senses makes no sense because you're basing your epistemology on a fallible system of determining what the truth is.
But you do
there are people.
Gravity. So you're
Zeno.
No,
there are people who can't see anything. Does that mean that nothing exists?
No, that means I can't demonstrate red to you, but you can ask me to demonstrate it, and I can't.
I can demonstrate red to somebody.
And I demonstrated my point once again.
I can demonstrate red to someone who cannot see, because I can explain what light waves are, and I can explain the range of what that is.
Okay.
But that is explaining what red is.
Jim?
Red is a color.
Jim, can they experience red? Can they experience it? Yes.
What does that mean?
Can you experience red if you're colorblind?
What does that mean?
What do you mean experience red?
So, what it means is, Jenna, you see red. Hold on. I just want to say this to Jenna. Jenna, you see red. I see red. Okay, if you're colorblind, they've never experienced red. So I can come up to you and Jenna say, let's give them a histograph. Let's give them a histograph, and we can demonstrate on a spectrum that red does exist. But they will never experience it like you and I, Jenna. They'll never see that red color.
But that doesn't change what red is. That doesn't change what red is, right?
Well, so does that mean that red doesn't exist?
Red.
Does that mean because they can't see
Right,
it?
exactly.
Hold on, my question is, does that mean that red doesn't exist?
No, it does exist, and you cannot see it.
Okay.
The
truth of the matter is there is red. Using our senses to determine what red is fallible.
I'm satisfied. Jenna answered it. Thank you, guys.
I'm confused.
How did you answer it?
Zeno, are you still there, or did you hang
gone.
out? I don't know what he's satisfied with.
Yeah, I think that Zeno. Yeah, I'm thinking of a word, and I don't really want to say it, but it isn't a very pleasant word that I'm using to describe Zeno in my head, but I'll leave it in there. Yeah, he was a bit of a jerk there.
I have no idea what he's satisfied with. And is red through red. I think poetry does a wonderful job of in many cases giving you the expression. Yeah.
It's apart from us. So we've.
Moving forward to the next speaker.
It's just crazy.
Oh, Mohammed. There we go.
Mohammed, are you there?
Mohammed, are you there?
Hi, you're on with Jenna and Jim.
And Jenna, thank you for taking my call. I'm just quick. I just want to comment about the last caller because it's really annoying. They talk about epistemology and all these senses and, complicated issues and about, nuclear physics and particles and Big Bang.
He never mentioned
And then they go to church and believe in ghosts and angels and all kind of stuff.
Well, I think you use different parts of your brain when you're thinking about those things.
Let's not go there. This is like,
how could they
crazy.
They just want to prove it so badly. They would go to the end of the earth trying to pull something through. I'm sure there was God.
Meanwhile, Mohammed, love you for it, but let's move on.
Do you believe in a God?
No, I don't. The thing is, I've studied. I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. Memorized the Quran, Hadith.
Well, I'm sorry. But, just because we have a short show that we really want to get to as many callers as we can, I just wanted to figure out if we can discuss anything about your belief in a God. But because it said that you were questioning, so I thought we could talk. But if you don't believe in a God, did you have anything?
No.
Anything that you wanted to?
I want to prove to you that I told them that I want to prove to you that Muhammad never existed ever. Muhammad, first of all, is not like Jesus that came in the last 10 days and just kicked some tables and here and there, and then had some sermons and had.
This
some
won't go down well because he's going to basically.
Before we get into it, can I ask
and...
how you can possibly prove that anything never existed?
Let me tell you how.
Okay.
So in any case, Muhammad is not like Jesus. 10 days and he was gone. Muhammad was there for 22 years. And
can you please answer my question though? Because I don't understand how you can prove anything never existed. Like not Muhammad specifically, but anything.
Yeah, there's nothing, 100%. I'm just trying to show you that he didn't exist like Jesus didn't exist. There's a lot of mythicists there too. I'm just trying to prove to you that Muhammad never existed either. And in any case, Muhammad had over 80 battles. He killed thousands of people. Jewish tribes were murdered in total. And not a single word was mentioned about Islam or about Muhammad, about or a new religion or any of that. The only three mentions that happened 50 years after his death. It happened 6 years after his death twice. They called people of Muhammad.
Why is this significant?
Well, if there's no Muhammad, there's no religion.
If there's no Muhammad, there's no religion? Or there's no Islam?
Yeah, there's no Islam.
Obviously, Islam.
Muhammad never existed. If Muhammad existed and he had 80 battles, killed thousands of people, and nobody ever wrote a word about him, That
I mean, I'm already convinced that Islam is incorrect. Is there anything that we can explore about your epistemology at that? Because I don't know that he never existed, and I don't know that you can prove it.
That's I prove it. But like I told you, after his death, he was only mentioned 3 times in history. Twice they were called him people of Muhammad. Nothing about a prophet or new Islam. Then the last time it was mentioned, 50 years later, they were talking about a good man that came in the Middle East that was, told people not to eat dead meat and all that stuff. They never even they said he was a prophet. It's an amazing thing. Nothing was mentioned in history, not during Muhammad's life or 50 years after his death. The only 3 times mentioned is these. If anybody can come up with anything else that Muhammad, a prophet that was mentioned in history at that time, I will be very surprised, because there's nothing.
Well, it's interesting, and it's as interesting as the Jesus mythicist position. But I'd love to explore it on a show that we're not constrained by so much time.
Right.
But because, if it is like, if you only have the writings to show that Muhammad existed and that some of the historical events that are in those writings never existed, then you definitely have an interesting case.
Muhammad, the name Muhammad was never there in history. That name never.
In truth, I don't know enough about Islam to comment on this, because I haven't looked into it enough. I know quite a bit about Islam, but this kind of aspect of mythicism for Muhammad, I just don't know enough about. I know that the issue of did Jesus exist or not is an interesting one, and is completely separate to the concept of if a person called Jesus, or whatever, the way it would have been pronounced then, if a person called Jesus or Jeshu existed, that doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that that person was therefore the Son of God. But the evidence that Jesus existed is as thin can be. Most of the Gospels were written 70 years or so after the apparent crucifixion. The crucifixion that was such a world-changing event, it was basically not reported. The killing of all the firstborn children in the beginnings of the story for Jesus, that was not reported. Nobody reported the concept that the idea that somebody, because of their worry about a child being born, would therefore kill all the firstborn in a particular area, that wouldn't go unnoticed. People wouldn't make a fuss about it, but it was not reported. So I think it's a big issue, of which there are huge numbers of posts on the web about this. If you go onto the web and look up basically Jesus myth on YouTube, you can pick up lots and lots of stuff. This is not to convince you in any way, of course, that Jesus did or didn't exist. That's not the point. The point is that you have to look at the data critically to decide whether these things have a good probability or not of being true. And we shouldn't shy away from the fact that some of the strongly held beliefs from a very long period of time may not be true. In this particular case, I can't comment because I don't know enough about it.
Mentioned, except like I said.
Right? That's what I was looking at too. All right, Ulrich and Ulrich or Ulrich? Hello? Hi.
Ulrich.
Ulrich. Yes. All right. It says that you have proof that atheists are really Satanists. Can we possibly start with definitions, please?
Yeah, so Satanist, that would be somebody who actually serves Satan. They always claim to not believe in anything, but actually they serve Satan.
So is it somebody who believes in Satan, or is it somebody who actively wants to worship this Satan?
Somebody who actively worships Satan.
So so then what's an atheist?
So the point is, your very logo at the bottom left of the screen shows a broken cross.
So what's an
I think
atheist?
that's intentional.
Ulrich?
Our
Your
logo
logo
shows
shows
what?
a broken cross.
No,
Why?
no, it
A
shows an
broken
X.
cross.
Please.
Maybe.
No, it shows an X.
Okay, that's a jerk thing.
AXP,
Yes, Atheist
yeah.
Experience.
So I'd like to know what an
AE.
atheist is. Can you please
No.
tell me, Ulrich, please tell me what an
Yes.
atheist is.
An atheist is somebody who denies God's existence.
Okay, so if we agree that I'll give you that. Fine. I don't deny it. I just don't believe it. But that's semantics. That's fine. I'll give you that I deny it. That's fine. If I deny God exists and Satan exists, if I deny that that entire world exists, how does that immediately imply that I serve and not only believe in, but serve this Satan character that we just established atheists don't really believe in because they deny it?
Because I've been watching the show for a long time, and you seem to really like Satanists and really hate Christians. In the
No,
Hold on.
So Ulrich is just an idiot. Let's just call it. Let's throw the card down on the table. Let's see how that card floats on the table. Is an idiot. That is not what anybody has said. I have never met electronically anybody in this show that hates anybody. That's just so not true. So he's just talking rubbish. The mere fact that he's talking about the fact that the letter X is something associated with a cross is just ridiculous. So I think this is just an idiot caller.
We like Satanists. What?
It's interesting, the concept that you can deny the idea of these kind of these supernatural beings. I do not believe these supernatural beings exist, yet somehow I kind of want or worship one of these supernatural beings, even though I deny they exist. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just an idiot.
How do you come?
So
And he's
Oh
jumped out.
no! I don't think that was intentional. I think he lost connection somehow.
That was Colin Studios telling us that we lost. Nope, maybe we have him back.
Oh,
Ulrich,
really?
do we have you back? I don't know. So,
All right, so let's go ahead and drop that one, and if he can please come back.
No, don't come back. Ulrich.
Actually, I'm told 10 seconds. Let's stall for just a couple of seconds. All right. Can we please?
Otherwise, a real.
I guess I am somebody who
To yourself.
the concept for me, so it confuses me.
Right.
So I guess that's why I try to cut it out. But I understand now. I need to get a little bit
Yeah.
more information. So, do you want to talk to Robin in DC about hard
Sure.
versus soft atheism?
No, I don't really. Okay.
Oh, he's on. He's
Nope.
on. He's on call anyway.
Hello.
So let's just
Go
go
ahead.
for it.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Robin. You're on with
calling.
Jenna and Jim.
Hello, Jenna. Hello, Jim. How you guys doing?
Yeah, hello, Jam.
Pretty good.
So I want to start by asking you guys a question, and would you? The question is, would you consider yourself a hard atheist, or would you consider yourself a soft atheist?
Define.
I'm sure you
Yeah,
guys
it
know the
depends.
difference.
Depends on
No,
how
it doesn't
you
depend.
define them.
Define the words.
So,
Don't
would you
say
consider
depends,
yourself
just say
someone
define.
who actively denies the existence of God, or as someone who merely withholds belief in a God?
I guess I am somebody who simply is not convinced that there is a God. I am under the impression that there probably isn't, but I can't prove it, so I'm just at like 99%.
Well,
I
I'm
don't know which
going
one
to
that is.
provide a definition. I'm going to provide a definition of God that we could work with for the context of this discussion, and then we could. The point is that I want to get to is that if we're talking about God as that which is the fundamental personal cause and grounds of all of reality, then there is no neutrality when it comes to belief in such a being.
Don't know what
One
that
will
means.
either affirm his denial, one will either affirm his existence, or they will deny his existence.
No, that's
So
rubbish.
No.
it sounds like my
No,
position
no.
is that kind of neutral, somewhere in between.
Yeah, there's always a neutral
Right.
position. There's always the I don't know position.
Right.
The I don't know position that Jim is referring to is really important in science. If you ask a question and you're thinking, okay, well, so is it this or is it this? If you don't have enough evidence to support either position, then the correct answer is, I don't know. And there is nothing wrong with that. And I think one of the problems with an awful lot of issues in society today is that not enough people use the scientific method in order to kind of lead their life. You don't have to be a scientist to use the scientific method. You have to be skeptical. You have to use your intelligence. You have to think about the evidence that's in front of you. You have to think about the propositions that are put to you. And then you have to try and be honest. And the reality is that if you're asking for, let's say, a belief in God, and, you know, does God exist or does God not exist, then your position needs to be surely yes, no, or I don't know. Those are the options. If you say yes, God exists, or no, God exists, if you make a definite statement, then you really need to back that up with some kind of evidence. And then the question comes of, is your evidence strong enough for that particular position or not? If you don't have strong evidence for your position, then you can have that position, but it's not based on evidence, so it's faith. Faith is believing something without the evidence for it. For most people, the position will be, I don't know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Always.
Okay, but the thing is, what I want to explain is that when it comes to certain categories of things, okay, then a neutral position cannot be maintained. So I'm going to give it.
So hold on, real
Of course
quick.
it can. If a neutral position means I don't know.
Do I have? Okay. This is a full deck except for the two jokers. Do I have an odd number or even number of cards in my hand right now?
That's exactly what I said. 30 seconds ago. Depending on the category. Right.
No. Answer the question, please. Do I have an odd number or an even number?
Robin, please work with us.
Do I have an odd number or an even number of cards in my hand?
I already know. Yeah.
Please, we're doing it for the show. Please.
And that's a position that you claim. Okay.
Right. I don't know. That is always. I don't know. Always the third position. There's always a third position. There is no category.
I understand that.
So there is. So you agree there is no category
that atheists make. But
this is not a claim. This is no. This is not a claim that atheists make. This is a claim that philosophers make. This is in all of philosophy, which why there are no categories. No. All philosophers, atheists or theists, it doesn't matter. All philosophy. It is a philosophical concept across all philosophy, not just atheist philosophy.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Again, that's not really important because what I'm going to do, at least what I want.
It's not important. Yes, it is, because you're going to try and prove that there is no third position, and I'm telling you there is always a third position.
Would you like to hear the argument, and then you can? Would you like to hear the argument? Would you like to hear the argument, and then you can give a rebuttal after I give the argument to you?
Do it in 30 seconds or less.
This would be beneficial.
Go.
Well, I'll define God first. Great. I'll define God first. So God would be the personal cause and ground.
No. Explain the category that you. No. Explain the category that means that I can't claim the I don't know position. Explain the category.
Yes. God is in the category of that which is the fundamental necessary cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs. Okay. So when we're talking about gumballs and or coins in my hand or something like that.
Prove your claim.
I haven't. Right. So I haven't made a claim. I've defined a term.
Yes,
Those
you
are two different
did.
things. Definitions and claims are two different things. No.
Yes,
listen,
you made the claim. Now prove it.
I know this is your show, but I would like to explain my position to you before getting overtalked. I know this is your show, and I know that your prerogative may be
all we're trying.
Over me,
so here's the problem: there is no category that I'm going to agree with you that I cannot take the I don't know position. It simply doesn't exist in philosophy.
Let me explain this, please. I just want to explain it, and of course,
please explain.
After the explanation,
go ahead. Take 30 seconds. Do your explanation. You're on the clock. Go.
Right. So the definition of God, I'll say this again. God is definitionally would be the necessary personal cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs. Okay? Now, in your worldview, when you
hold on, he has 30 seconds. He has 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim's about to explode.
Okay, now this is a question to you, so I expect you to respond. Do you, when you invoke facts, when you reference any state of affairs, you say I have a pencil in my hand, do you do this? When you do this, do you acknowledge God as He's been defined for their intelligence?
I completely deny your definition, and I reject your definition.
I don't even understand your definition.
Okay. Well, the only. Okay. Well, let me just say this. The only ground someone will have to reject a definition is to say that there is some sort of a contradiction.
What if? Hold on. Please. What if I simply don't know?
Right. That's what we're talking.
Exactly.
So
are you denying that that's a possibility?
So there's a number of. Go ahead. Answer Jenna's question.
I think that this is pointless. It's kind of going around in circles, and you can see it's irritating the hell out of Jim. The problem here is the fact that Robin is not going to accept the fact that whatever his proposition is for God, it can just be, well, I don't know. I don't accept that. I don't see any evidence to accept that. But Robin seems to be stating that, this is the fact that this God exists, that is the cause and the responsibility of everything that's kind of happening temporally, so anything through time. And that's his first presupposition, which he's going to move on from. But Jimmy's saying, well, no, you can't accept that. You can't just state that. You have to prove it. And Robin doesn't want to prove that because, of course, Robin can't prove that.
I'm sorry.
On the term or the concept that I'm presenting to you. The concept I'm presenting to you is a being that is defined as that which is the personal necessary cause and grounds of all. I'm defining something. A definition is not a claim that it exists.
Yes,
do you understand that?
Yes, foolish man. You can come up with any definition you want, and someone is allowed to say to you, okay, prove that definition to me. Give me the evidence by which you have come to that definition.
You're claiming that this being exists.
That's the question. Yes, no question.
And then you're going to assign a name to it and call it a definition.
Hold on,
what I want you to do is prove that prove that this being exists.
If you look, hold on a minute. If you look at the notes, I'm sure your call screen has put this up. My claim, it has nothing to do with whether or not God exists. What I put on the notes, and I'm being truthful here, so I didn't lie on the notes. The note there is whether or not you are a soft or a hard atheist. That is what the note says. You can read it in front of you. Okay, so it has nothing to do with me. I'm simply analyzing your position. And if you don't like the fact that your position is being analyzed, I would advise you not to.
I haven't heard a single thing that is analyzed. I haven't heard you do a single thing to analyze whether or not we're atheist or soft atheist. You have been trying to define God from the jump. You have failed to do so. And you need to define how your being exists before you can go any further. And just defining him into existence is absolutely ridiculous, because I can define anything into existence by that logic. I can define a unicorn. I can define the flying spaghetti monster. I can define fairies into existence by just simply going, this is my definition of fairy, and you can't do anything about it. Nya, 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 nya. Well, you're wrong.
No. Because I didn't say that it exists. And for the fifth time, I'm going to say that a definition and a claim are two different things. I can define. Okay, so Superman. I can define you as being nothing but a troll. I can define you as a troll. You're a troll, and there's nothing you can do about it. Right? Right? Okay.
Nothing you can argue against. I'm not making a claim.
Okay. That is fine. If the word troll has a definition, rejecting this definition for the world,
and not
like that, because the thing is,
they're talking to Robin
place
for such a long period of time.
Change my mind if I.
Why do you hold
your definition? So your entire little thought experiment here goes completely down the drain. Second, we can always choose the neutral position no matter what you say, because there's always a neutral position. Both sides of a claim have to have evidence in order to support them, in order to accept either as true. This is simply the case. So I'm sorry, but we're right back where we started from.
What you've done is just ignored. You've just ignored what you just demonstrated here.
Maybe not an idiot. He's deliberately trying to suck up time on the
program. No, just go ahead and hang up. Go ahead and hang up, please. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hope that helped. And we'll take the next caller.
Okay, well, so that's interesting. I don't understand how a neutral position is a position that somebody has to assert. But I guess if somebody wants to explain that in the chat, we can do that.
No, I don't. No one can, because it's just So first of all, he starts off with the definition that he says we can't. We don't need evidence for it. We just have to accept as true. I reject that. And then everything else builds off that little thing of definition.
It's always best in science to start off with the idea that I have evidence, which was at the very beginning of this program, the concept of empirical evidence. And there was nothing there. It was just a bold statement, effectively, that God exists.
To reject the definition, everything else goes completely down the drain for him, because you can't really do anything else with it. And he can yell and scream about it all he wants, but I reject the definition. That is not the definition of God. Right. That is not the common usage. And this is part of the problem, right? Is that what the dictionary shows is common usage, which is why words change definitions all the time, is because they change in usage. And so he wants to, and part of the problem is that while that is true, once you start changing what those usages are, you can prove anything, right? But the fact is that a rose by any other name is still a rose, and whether he wants to call it a god or a being or anything else is completely irrelevant, because he's still making a claim that this exists, and I still want evidence for that before he can go down any further.
Right, like he needs to explain that he's saying that this is a god. A god has X and Y and Z. It has a mind. It has been created. It's created everything. There are claims in the definition, and I think that's not what he was really understanding. But I was just trying to get more to the concept of it, and I think I found where he's been. I was early in my marriage, and I was learning about my partner, about how in the mornings he's groggy, slow to get up, and I'm one of those like up in the morning and I'm awake, right? So I'm like talking 500 miles an hour, and he's getting frustrated. And so because he gave me the impression that I was overwhelming him, I was under the impression that meant that I wasn't supposed to talk at all in the mornings. It was, do you want me to talk in the mornings, or do you want me to be quiet? And so I couldn't wrap my head around the possibility that there was this in between, that I could just kind of slow down a little bit. I could talk about different topics, so I just want to point out that I can understand that black and white stuff,
Okay. So let's go ahead and try it. And just for everybody's awareness, we're having a little bit of trouble with Colin's studio, which is why we had to ask Robin to drop rather than just drop him like a hot potato. So he may still be on the line, but we don't hear him. So he probably isn't. And so we'll just go on to the next call and see what happens. So yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, so let's go to Justin in Alabama. It says that you're an average working class guy. I do believe there could be God or gods, but I don't think that the gods of specific religions are real. So hi, Justin. You're talking to Jenna and Jim.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm curious if we can get right down to the nitty gritty. If we can talk about why you think that there could be anything, like whether you define it as a god or, energy. I'm just curious what you think is there and why.
Well, to be honest with you, the reason why I think there could be beings in the universe or multiverse or whatever you believe we live in. I mean, let me try and get my words together because I'm trying to be as quick as possible on this. The universe as we know it is very, very massive. And to think that we are the only creatures living in it, the only intelligent creatures living in it, is the height of human hubris or arrogance or whatever you want to call it. And personally, I believe that in addition to possible life forms similar to us existing somewhere else in our universe, there could be creatures living out there that are so far beyond us, evolutionary-wise speaking, that to us they would seem like ancient gods.
So if there were these things, let's say there are creatures out in the universe.
This is a flight of fancy.
Let's call them aliens. What does that imply about a god or something like that?
I'm saying that the way they look, and physiologically speaking, energy beings, if you will, that is something that we could possibly misrepresent or misinterpret as being something similar to a god. Because, you take your typical average deity. Let's use the...
Let's use yours. Let's use the one that you think exists, that you think must be there, the implied.
Okay.
The basis of this seems to be that, anything's possible. And if it's kind of beyond us, like we are beyond a cat, an ant, an amoeba, then we might seem to them like gods. They would seem to us like gods. I find it difficult to really... express how ridiculous this is. The concept of evolutionary process continuing, and it's been continuing for longer in different parts of the universe, that's absolutely fine. There are certain things that are needed for our kind of life. You need to be on a planet that probably has liquid water. Ideally, it needs to be a single planet, whereas a planet around a single star. It seems that the majority of stars are not single. They're sort of doublets or triplets. The problem with that is if you're in orbit around them, the temperature changes can be quite large. That tends to not be great for life. So this idea that there is life elsewhere in the universe, I would suggest is a reasonably high probability, even if, especially if we're talking about any kind of life, like bacterial life. The idea that it's intelligent is tougher, but it's not unreasonable. Why should it be? The argument that, and we would perceive them as being a god. Now, there's a difficult step here, because how would we perceive them as being like a god to us? That would mean we have to experience them, which means they're sort of in contact with us. There are so many ifs and buts in this argument that I would suggest it's almost pointless.
I'm thinking of...
And it doesn't mean, of course, that these creatures that have evolved in the universe by Justin's definition created the universe.
Of similar beings, kind of like the... Are y'all Star Trek fans?
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I wish I was more. But
okay.
Yes.
An unfortunate experience.
Okay, you remember the Q continuum?
Yep.
I'm not that much of a fan.
They were aliens.
Okay.
Yeah, they were aliens, but the way that they looked and the abilities they had, they could be called gods, if you will.
But why would we?
But what? Yeah, exactly. Why would we?
Well, because of their abilities to teleport wherever they want to, the abilities to manipulate time.
So
what's
a god?
Science fiction
What's a god? Is it somebody with magic powers?
Has personal freedom, liberty, and independence.
Well, what does that have to do with my question?
Oh, absolutely nothing. I completely agree with you.
Okay.
But when you were talking about religion and everything, that kind of hit a trigger for me. I'm sorry.
So your definition of God or gods or the probability really doesn't make any difference to anything, right? It's just an interesting thing to talk about.
Not really.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I agree. So anyway, we don't really have time to talk about. Yeah, we don't have time in their show to talk about things that are interesting to talk about, no matter how much I want to talk about them. But we do have forums, the Atheist Community of Discord, both of our Facebook groups. More than happy to talk about all that kind of stuff with you.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go. I'm actually curious. Do you want to take an abortion call?
I guess.
Yeah, that won't
all right.
Too much this up.
Rethinking abortion and pro-life. Why is the current pro-life movement? Why the current pro-life movement doesn't make sense? Oh, you're pro-choice, and you'd like to talk about why pro-life isn't logical.
Okay, so I'm probably not going to say a huge deal about this because it's probably not going to get into the realm of sort of science and physics in the way that I want to. However, the one thing I would say is for any students watching this, if you're thinking about in the future applying for university places for medicine, then there are certain issues that become sort of effectively linking themselves to moral issues, like, is abortion acceptable? What about euthanasia? Things like that. You have to be aware of the arguments for pros and cons so that you can discuss them. And you need to make sure that you gen yourself up on these issues. So this next item, I suspect, will be quite useful for anybody who's interested in a career in medicine.
Hi, Joe in Canada. You're on with Jenna and Jim.
Oh, hi. Hey, guys. Jenna and Jim, thank you so much for taking my call.
Yeah. Let's try to make it quick, though, because we're trying to keep it about woo.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. So basically for me, I've been really thinking about abortion and pro-life because I've been studying a lot of the political ramifications of it, the left-wing position, the right-wing position. I'm a theist, by the way. And I just come to the conclusion the pro-life movement as it stands now, it doesn't make much sense to me. And I was hoping that maybe we can discuss it and figure out why it is that some theistic, or I would say this, some theists think that it does, when I feel like as a theist, I don't think it makes much sense.
So I'd like to find out from you where, if you're a theist and you're changing to be pro-choice, which I actually did too, how do you justify that in your mind?
Sure, I can say that. So, firstly, with pro-life, I feel like we gotta rethink the concept. Pro-life, in my opinion, should mean promoting the well-being of the lives of everyone. So the baby, the mother, other people that may be impacted by it. So for me, it makes no sense to me when many right-wing conservatives advocate for anti-abortion, but then they oppose welfare or government assistance for the woman if they were to have a baby, because that's not promoting the life of the mother or the baby after the baby is born. The way I see it is, it's like trying to force the woman to have a baby, but then they'll put her in a horrible situation by withholding essential resources that the woman will need to take care of that baby.
Interesting.
And many times, a woman does not feel ready to have a baby because she's not in a financial position to do so. So it doesn't make sense to tell a woman, you have to have that baby, and then when it's born, okay, good luck, now you're on your own. It really doesn't make that much sense to me, you know? So life should be the life of everybody.
Have you looked at this from the point of view of whether or not someone has a right to control their own body?
Yes, actually. I was going to tell you that. I was going to go to that next, actually. I took some notes, if that's okay. So for me, so as it stands right now, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So as it stands right now, the process of giving birth is it's a biological consequence that the woman suffers. So she should have the ultimate say about that. Having said that, though,
it's not that the woman suffers. It's that it's the woman's body that the child has to use in order to survive until it can be born.
Right. Even if it was fun, it would still be our decision.
Right.
Well, yeah, for sure. So I guess the way I see it is the woman should obviously have the final say, and like she has the right to dictate what goes on inside her. I guess the way I was thinking about it is, say, if I, if my girlfriend and I, were to have sex and she used to get pregnant, and she's told me, listen, I don't feel like, I'm very concerned about our ability to support the baby. I'm thinking about abortion, and if I really wanted to have that baby, or like have that child, maybe I would ask her, okay, I know you feel that way. It is your choice, but I really want to. I would really love to have that child. So how could is there any way we can make it work?
The only way to make it work is to find a way to transplant the child into either a willing woman or some sort of artificial birthing system that is, and that process would have to be acceptable to the woman. That'd be the only way that it would work, right? Because what the man wants doesn't make any difference.
Right, you're just kind of out of luck at that point. I'm
and that's
curious,
science fiction at the moment.
I'm curious if you're. Do you believe in a religion along with your theism? Like, do you believe? Can I ask what religion you are?
Yes, I do. Yes, I'm Muslim.
Okay, so then, Islam is against abortion, correct?
See, I'm actually not sure, to be honest. I have to do my own research about that. It's something that I don't know personally, because there's a lot of disputes, like scholarly disputes about that. So I guess the way I can say it myself is I don't know. I haven't looked into it myself. Yeah.
So do you take other teachings from this religion that is not very clear?
Well, I guess the way I said is there's some things in our religion that is clear, and there's other things that are not as clear, are pretty ambiguous.
So how?
So if I can give some examples.
Sure.
Oh. So for example, so one thing I tend to think of is that if something is a sin in my religion, I can't dictate that to somebody who doesn't believe in my religion. So in my example, it's a sin for me to drink alcohol in my religion, but I can't tell you that you can't drink alcohol because you don't follow my religion, So
how do you determine
it's a sin in my religion?
So when your religion tells you that you can't drink alcohol, and your religion is also vague on whether or not you should terminate a pregnancy or not be allowed to terminate a pregnancy, to me.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in there for a second. Although Islam gives high priority to the sanctity of life, most Muslim scholars agree that abortion may be permitted if there are valid reasons. Valid reasons include if the mother's life is endangered by the pregnancy, or if the fetus is detected to have severe disabilities and or a genetic disease that would cause it relentless pain. So it would appear that the Quran doesn't really say anything about abortion, and Islam does not restrict it in the sense of it can't happen. So probably not a line worth going down.
Those are much bigger. Like the pregnancy is a much bigger deal than you being allowed to drink alcohol. I wonder why you would follow this religion that is more vague on some of the more important teachings that you should be taking from it. Why would you accept that you can't drink alcohol and also accept that the rules are unclear about other things? And so how can you know that anything that comes from it is reliable?
Well, I guess it's a matter of the way we kind of draw our teachings is, and again, I'm saying that as a Muslim, the way we draw it is what's said explicitly, like in the Quran, the holy book, and the Hadith, the saying of the Prophet. And he does speak about some things very clearly, and other things are not as mentioned. So I know with some scholarly opinions, some scholars say it is abortion is completely you're against it completely, it's not allowed. Others say that it is allowed, under certain circumstances. And some say, I believe 40 days or so, up to a certain period, they believe that the life doesn't have sentience, so a woman can go forward with it. I guess for me, those may be perspectives in my religion, but again, I myself am undecided. I'm just really thinking. I guess the way I was going about it, I was very critical of the pro-life movement and what it's trying to do. And I feel like that doesn't help the woman, that doesn't help the baby, that doesn't help anybody. And in some ways, it even harms the woman. And
I understand, and I actually appreciate that you're evaluating this and that you're questioning your beliefs. And I realize that you didn't necessarily call to talk about your belief in a God. You wanted to talk about your change from being pro-life, but I'm confused as to how you can justify that, how you can justify kind of being a cafeteria Muslim, as my family would put it.
A cafeteria. You know what, Jenna, that's very interesting. I guess the ultimate answer for me is I don't know. I guess right now I'm currently in a bit of a crisis of faith. I guess
sorry.
I can say right now is like I call myself like a non-practicing Muslim. That's kind of what I call myself now.
Okay.
I still believe in some of the tenets, but I'm pretty far away from it. So I'm actually at that period where I'm evaluating my beliefs and seeing what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And this is one of the things that really didn't make sense to me, this whole pro-life thing. So you know what? I don't know. That's the honest answer. And I guess I'm still in the process of finding out what religion will play a role for me, or if it will at all in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. So I wonder if it's okay with you if we leave it there. If you could please, I love that you're being honest with us and that you're saying that you don't know where you stand on that. I would encourage you to try to find out where you do stand. I'm not going to tell you where to go or what to do about it. But I'd really like for you to call back and tell us where you go with this.
Yeah, for sure. I love how you guys talked about recovering from religion. So I did call them a couple of times. I'm not necessarily saying that, like, you know, this means I will not be religious or I may come back to religion, but I will definitely be rethinking many of my positions that I currently hold.
I'm very happy for you. Well, Thank you, Joe. Good luck.
Good, man.
All right, so we have two more.
One of those scenarios is pretty much right now in the middle. Like I'm still questioning, but you know, I like to play. You know, a way for me to decide the truth is to like make logical scenarios and see where it leads. Right?
Okay.
And one of those scenarios is if a God exists, you know, would it be more reasonable to believe God instead of a human? Okay.
Well, the problem is that we don't know what a God is. That's the problem. Is how can you explore the icing on the cake if you don't know that there's a cake yet? If you can't find the cake.
All right.
So,
see what I'm saying?
So for me, when I'm talking about God, I'm referring to, you know, the classical denoted God, which is, you know, the omniscient.
There is no classical
the one
God.
who created everything.
Well, so
I'm sorry.
It sounds like you're arguing for divine command theory, that whatever God says is good if God defines himself as good, right? Is that what you're arguing?
No. It's actually a bit different. What I believe is basically a nutshell, because it can be long. So a nutshell is like this: what if, you know, any decision a person or entity, you know, puts forth into reality is directly proportional to the amount of knowledge this person or entity has, right? So
how do you
the
know?
more knowledge this person or entity.
So if you're going if you're using omniscient as a definition of God, then that includes a contradiction, a logical contradiction in and of itself, which is problematic. Okay. So you can't really, it does not appear to be the case that we could have anything or anyone that is omniscient, that knows everything going on now and into the future, and then into the past, because we have an imperfect knowledge of the past. That seems to contain a logical contradiction that we can't get around. So if you're going to argue that because there's an omniscient being, then they should know everything, therefore we should believe whatever they say is good, you're still assuming that this being is in fact good. and not evil? What if the end goal?
Correct. I mean, you actually, and this is the thing. The thing is, he has infinitely amount of knowledge. Okay, so whatever he says has an infinitely greater potential of being right compared to whatever human says, right?
It depends on the definition of the word right.
So,
so aside from being able to prove that anyone or anything could possibly have an infinite amount of knowledge, that's a huge claim. How can we even prove that he's male?
Yeah.
How can we prove something a little bit more tangible?
Yeah. The thing is, I'm assuming in this logical, scenario, I'm assuming he exists.
This
I'm
is
saying
not a logical
if
scenario.
he exists, or she, or it. Okay. Whatever this entity has to say, it has an infinitely greater potential to be right.
Okay, he's just repeating himself because he's probably got this written down. He doesn't know what else to say. If you had infinite knowledge, then you could say, if you knew what had happened and what was going to happen. And it's an interesting question, the concept of how would you know what's going to happen since it hasn't happened yet. But if you could know that, then what you have is information on what has and what will happen. It is a different question then to throw in the moral part of this. Is that right? What is right? What is the right thing to do? The right thing to do for the best possible outcome? If the right thing to do is the thing that will give you the best possible outcome, how would this creature know that? Because this creature doesn't know about every possible outcome. It knows what will happen and what did happen. It doesn't know what will happen if you did something different, because you didn't do something different. You did what you would do. So I don't think that there's a logical argument here at all. If there is, I just don't see it. This is just playing with words, pointless.
Compared to whatever a human has to say.
So
this will go nowhere.
What if it's the opposite? What if this creator of the universe was actually really evil and vindictive and just wanted to play with us?
It could be, and that's the thing. And
what's the thing? Hold on. I'd like to know what the thing is. You say that's the thing. What's the thing?
I will tell you. The example that I would like to give is, let's say you have a dying man in front of you and a doctor and a chef, okay, someone who doesn't know anything about medicine. And you want to take an advice from one of these people, okay?
No, you don't. No, you don't have to.
Well, in his thought experiment, you do. So.
Oh, I guess I was trying to prove something. I was trying to prove something, and it was going to derail you. I'm sorry.
I'm still not sure what you're trying to argue. If you're an agnostic and trying to prove that this God exists or not, which is really all we kind of care about is, do gods exist or not? So, are you making an argument for the existence of God, or are you just wanting to argue about a possible consequence of there being a God?
I'm not arguing about the existence of God. I'm arguing about if a God exists, it would actually be more possible.
What if it's fairies? What if
we have one more call to get to, and again, promoting the Atheist Community of Discord. They would probably love to have you, and the Facebook groups as well, if we could get those up, would also be good places to talk about if a God exists, what would actually happen, and what would be the logical consequences of that. As much as I would really like to delve into that, we just don't have the time right now.
Okay, absolutely. I understand that. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, thanks.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, I mean, that's interesting.
It is. It's an interesting topic to talk about and to theorize about it and to.
Michael from Connecticut, I believe, and it says that you would like to falsify Darwinism. Hi, Michael. You're on with Jenna and Jim. How are you?
Yeah. So Hi, I'm an experimental philosopher. I'm a systems theorist. I've lectured at several different universities: Yale, Fairfield University, Quinnipiac. So I'm not a creationist.
Nice name drop. Yeah.
My argument comes from the position which is a function of transcendental idealism. And this is a text which is going to be published in my forthcoming publication. I'm not going to discuss that now.
Hold on. How are you? What I would just like to know off of the beginning, given that there is so much evidence for evolution, how are you as a systems theorist overcoming all that evidence?
That's a category error. I'm not denying the existence of evolution. I'm denying the existence
that's what
of
Darwinism. That is what Darwinism is.
No, actually,
right?
Well, what is your definition of Darwinism?
There were competing paradigms to describe the process of evolution, such as Henry Bergson's, Johannes Goethe's, Alfred North Whitehead's, Pierre Taylor Desjardins, and Darwin's is wrong. So we're going to have the discussion from here.
So what is Darwinism? Please
okay.
let me know, because I'm not sure what you're necessarily referring to.
Darwinism, the process of natural selection and diversification of speciation by virtue of
which is evolution.
Pressures,
Hold on.
Evolution is a consequence of Darwinism. Darwinism's mechanism, that's another category error. So that's two fallacies for you.
Wait. Say that again.
This
Say
guy
that
is
again.
stunningly irritating.
I'm curious.
He's got so much. You basically have to overcome an entire. You basically have to overcome an entire branch of
if
science.
You're afraid of me running you over, because I will on your own show.
Okay, I think you just got dropped.
Yeah. See, look, now run us over. Go ahead, run us over. Oh, wait, we dropped you. You can't. Yeah, this is a serious.
So full of himself.
There is so much evidence for evolution that to overcome that entire topic and think you can is really, I mean, people call me arrogant. I'm not that arrogant. So, wow. That was fun.
Yeah.
Jim has not had a great time tonight.
I really hope some people call back.
Yeah. We had some Muslim callers today, which was kind of interesting. We don't usually get those. And a Muslim mythicist, which I had never heard of before. So that was kind of awesome.
Yeah. So, well, I guess thank you all for donating and being so generous. I see that the fundraiser is doing pretty well.
Just going to pause there. I will play the next bit because of the fundraising. It might be worth us being aware of that. That was just a weird one tonight. There wasn't huge amounts on science, really. And it's interesting that there's some very, very weak arguments there from people who have not thought enough about evidence, have not thought enough about their arguments. And also, I think the final one, when you come over that arrogant, and you can always tell when there's a problem with someone's arguments, when all they can do is sort of name drop universities and name drop people, but actually not get to the detail. And you're antagonistic as soon as you start talking to another human being, and every time they say something that by your perception they've put their foot out of place somehow, you point it out to them. This is not a good way to have a conversation with somebody, and you instantly basically make a knob of yourself. And that's exactly what the last person did. So he won't, but he needs to reflect on himself a little bit more before he opens up and starts engaging with others, is my opinion.
Well, thank you all for subscribing and sharing and talking about this, and keep a lookout for because these calls get clipped, and so you can kind of look for just the clips of calls. You don't have to commit to the whole show. You can see just a couple things if you want.
And
but thank you all so much for tuning in, and thank you, crew, for helping us with everything and making sure everything was running smoothly. And we had a little bit of a hiccup with Colin's studio that I think went very smoothly thanks to you all.